है यहाँ पे, ये इसका जो कोड है ना, असेंबली लैंग्वेज का जो कोड है वो यहाँ पे गिवन है।
ये नोट्स में है अपलोडेड जो ड्राइव में है सर?
वो अंडरग्रेड स्टूडेंट्स,
ठीक है सर।
मेरे ख्याल से उसमें OST सोल्यूशन के नाम से इस तरह से एक है, इसमें पेज 1 पेज 2 LCD का एक कोड गिवन हो गया।
ठीक है सर।
एक मिनट में मैं दोबारा स्टार्ट कर LCD कंट्रोलर जी। If you look at this LCD controller, start करना है
जी सर स्टार्ट।
okay. If you look at this LCD controller, so now you have a microcontroller and now this is communicated with the LCD. Okay, now if you remember we studied an IO interfaces
यस
in
सर।
your previous lecture.
प्रोग्राम कंट्रोल।
There are two types of communication with the IO. One is device communication, one is CPU communication. So actually this is CPU communication or device communication?
The CPU communication.
So actually CPU is communicating with the device through different signals. What is the name of the signal? E, RW, RS, DB7 to DB0. So this DB7 to DB0 is an 8-bit signal. It's an 8-bit signal. Okay. Now it's the device communication. With the device communication, it's with the. So actually, what the LCD controller is communicating with the CPU through interface signals. What are these interface signals? E, RW, RS and DB7 to DB0. And then it is giving commands to the LCD controller. Which pixel will be high, how it will be high. It will be done by the LCD controller. So this is device communication. Now there are different modes. There are different modes. If you look at here, so this RS is there, RW is there, DB7, DB6, DB5, 4, 3, 2, 1 and 0, this is an 8-bit signal. And now this is this description. So if you send a command 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1, so what's the description? Clear? All display and return cursor home. Clear all display. It will display the whole LCD.
ठीक है सर।
Okay. Now, if you look at here, it will return cursor home, but it will not clear the display. In the first example, let's assume we have an LCD. An LCD, this 5, 6, 3, 2 is displayed here, and the cursor is here. When you send this set of commands, what will happen? All will be cleared, and now LCD will
start to initial position.
But if you send the second command, what will happen?
ये क्लियर नहीं होगा लेकिन इनिशियल पोजीशन पे आ जाएगा।
Command actually 5, 6, 3, 2 and cursor will be here for this second command. It is return cursor home.
स्टेरिक का डोंट केयर कंडीशन मतलब है सर?
Don't care. You can send a logical 1 or logical 0, doesn't matter.
ठीक है सर।
Don't care. If even you send 0 or 1, doesn't matter. Doesn't matter. It will return cursor home. Okay. Now this, if you look at this signal, the value of DB2 is 1. What is ID? I/D. I/D stands for, if it is 1, the cursor will move
to left.
If it is 0, the cursor will move right. So if this value is 0, the cursor will move left. If it is 1, right. S. If you look at S, if S is equal to 1, it is with display shift.
Display shift.
With display shift. And it is 0, it is with no display shift. What is display shift?
कि दूसरे रो में आना चाहते हैं?
No. Display shift means that let's assume if it is 5, 6, 3, 2 and cursor is here.
ठीक है सर।
When you press another button or move the data, it will press 9 and then automatically.
ठीक है सर।
जी कोई क्वेश्चन है मुझसे पूछ ले प्लीज।
सर ये DB1 में जो कोड थ्रू है सर, ये ID ये क्यों हुआ है?
क्या कह रहे हैं?
मतलब ये सिंगल बिट की हम बात करें तो वो 0 होगा या 1 होगा, तो यहाँ पे I/D क्यों होगा?
I/D is a one bit signal, but
इसका
I/D can have a logical 1 or logical 0. When it's 1, it means cursor will move left. When it's 0, cursor will move in the
राइट।
you are just moving the cursor, doing nothing.
इसके अंदर है वैल्यू ये 1 है 0 है
जी
There are two things. One is the current position of the cursor, and one is the future position of the cursor. Let's assume if you have 5, 6, 3, 2, 1. The cursor is here. If you want to move the cursor here, what will you do?
0 1
मूव राइट तो जीरो, आईडी की जगह जीरो होगा,
I is value to 0. If you want to move it left,
1 होगा फिर।
1. Any question? G. Okay. And this is DCB. What is D? If you look at D,
सिर्फ
DCB.
डी नहीं है सर।
It's actually I don't know but what's the meaning of this on off all display cursor on off C cursor on off C or something. Again, there are different type of commands that you can send, and it's actually if you want to write some data. If it's 1 0, you are writing some data. These are actually the commands. These are the
कमांड
commands, and this is if you want to write some data. Now I will write a complete assembly language program. Write complete assembly language program for a specification. Okay. What we want to do? We want to display our name. We want to display Lal Seth, okay, and its registration number on the LCD. Okay, this is our, and we want to display it with a 5x10 dot display. 5x10 dot display. Okay, now there are two type of modes. If you look at this F signal, can you see this F signal?
यस सर,
When F is 1,
इट इज अ 5x10।
it will be configured in the 5 cross 10 dots. If it is 0, then
5x7
cross
डॉट।
7. So it means 5 cross 10, actually one digit will be displayed in a pixels. So actually 5 pixels in these directions and 10 pixels in
दिस डायरेक्शन।
this direction. 5 cross 10. There is also one mode. 5 cross
7
7. Which one is more dense? This one is more dense or this one is more dense?
दिस वन इज मोर डेंस 10।
No, this one is more dense. Dense. It means that you can now display a character so that the character is larger, but you
Yes,
cannot
sir.
display more characters on the same LCD.
ऐसा
किसकी? It is more dense. You can pack more digits within LCD.
जी यस सर, बिल्कुल। यू कैन पैक मोर।
When the character is small, density is larger. Okay? When you have a car, when the size of the seat is big, so the number of seat will be more or less. When the size of the seat chair is big, when you have
ज़्यादा
big
लोग-
chairs,
Yes.
let's assume if the chair is big, you put a sofa here.
चेयर इज कांस्टेंट सर, चेयर इज कांस्टेंट। उसमें आप 3 मोटे लोग बता रहे हैं या
So it's
10
not
आप छोटे।
constant. Actually, if you look at this LCD, actually these are all dots. All dots. So if you look at 5 plus 10, so actually the digit will be like this. And with 5 plus 7, then this one is more dense or this one is more dense? It's more dense because now you can pack more characters
on the same
on the
LCD.
same row, you can pack
Less correct.
less characters. अब समझ आई बात?
Yes, sir.
जी. ओके. अच्छा यहाँ पे ये रो है. यहाँ पे अगर आप 2 सोफे रखेंगे, तो सोफे तो 2 ही आएंगे ना. कुर्सियाँ कितनी आएंगी? 3 या 4 आएंगी. तो डेंसिटी किसकी ज़्यादा होगी?
कुर्सियों की.
कुर्सियों की ज़्यादा होगी. So density is actually how many number of characters you can display on the LCD. Okay? Okay, so now we want to configure it in 5 cross 10 touch display. Okay? And then we want to move it into 2 row mode. So there are 2 modes. One is a single row mode and another is a
2 row
2
mode.
row mode. How? Which single we need to control? N. What should be the value of N?
1.
1. If it's 1, it will be configured in a 2 row mode. When it's 0, it will be configured in a
1 row
1 row
mode.
mode. And now there are 2 type of modes. One is an 8-bit mode and one is a 4-bit mode. Can you see? When DL, data length, when DL is equal to 1, it's an 8-bit mode. When DL is equal to 0, it's a
4-bit mode.
4-bit mode. In an 8-bit mode, you can display maximum of 256 characters.
Yes,
In a
sir.
4-bit mode, you can display a maximum of
256
15 characters. 16.
Yes, sir. 16 characters.
256 characters are 16 characters. Or 16 different symbols. Okay? So, we want a 2 row mode and 8-bit mode. Okay, now we will write an assembly language program for this. We will write an assembly language program. Okay. Now let us assume. Now let's assume we are using a microcontroller. We are using a
Microcontroller.
microcontroller. This is connected with P1.0. So now we are using a microcontroller. A microcontroller, now you have an LCD controller. This is connected with P1.0. P1.1 is connected with RW. P1.2 is connected with RS. And P2 is connected with DB. P2. P2 is the complete port. It is P2.7 to P2.6, P2.5. What's the size of this data?
8-bit.
8-bit. So how we can start with an assembly language program? Can we write it like this?
Equal to start करें.
E equal what?
E equal
P1.0. Then RW equal
1.1.
1. Then what's the other signal?
DB equal P2.
RS.
RS equal 1.2.
DB equal
P2.
D2. So now we want to initialize the program. अच्छा यहाँ पे ये जो है ना, this is our description.
साइड पे लिखना स्टार्ट कर दो. साइड पे आ जाएगा. लेफ्ट साइड पे.
यहाँ पे कर लेते हैं 5 cross 10, then 2 row, 8-bit, लाल सेल and registration number. जो भी registration number है आपको. Okay. Now how you can? We will now program initialize. So okay. Okay. Now if you want to send some data to LCD, if we want to send
some data.
some data to LCD, we should give a pulse. On which signal a pulse will be given?
E पे
E. How can we give a pulse? How can we give a pulse?
कोई हाई सेंड करेंगे उस पे.
Huh?
Event of load से
No, we want to generate a pulse on E. How can we generate a pulse?
माइक्रो प्रोसेसर की किसी पेन पे हाई जनरेट करके उसके साथ कनेक्ट कर देंगे.
We want to generate in I calling a routine enable LCD. So can we write it like this? Clear E. Then set E.
Yes sir.
Then
Clear E.
clear E. A pulse will be generated.
Yes sir.
Initially it will be 0. Then
High.
1 and then 0. And then return.
Return.
When this subroutine will be called, the data will be moved. Okay, this LCD will not latch the data until it receives a pulse. Until it receives a pulse. Okay, now what we want to do? We want to initialize the program. We want to have 5 cross stand display. Okay, now if you look at here, okay, if you want to 5 cross standard display, how we can do the 5 cross standard display? What should be the value of f?
F1 होना चाहिए.
F should be 1. If you want to initialize it in the 2-row mode,
N should be 1.
n should be 1. And if you want to 8-bit, DL is equal to 8-bit.
D should be 1.
DL, where is DL?
D yes.
DL should be 1. Okay, where this F, N and DL lies? F is here,
Yes sir.
N is here,
Yes sir.
and DB is
D is
DB
here.
is here. Okay, now if you want to generate these things, what should be the value of RS?
0.
0. What should be the value of RW? 0. So can we write it like this? Clear RS, clear RW. Am I right?
Yes sir. Yes sir.
And then move P2. P2. What is the size of P2?
8-bit.
8-bit data.
Yes sir.
So we should use immediate addressing mode.
Yes sir. 0 0.
And in percent. Why in percent? Binary. Binary. What should now 0 0 is here done. What should we need to send? 0 0 1.
1 1 1.
0 0 1. First we need to send 0 0 1. Then
1 1.
DL, N and F. What should be the value of DL?
तीनों 1 होंगे ये तीनों.
1 1 1 1 1 1. It's what's actually DL. It's DL.
Yes sir.
And then after that
N.
N and F. Okay. Now if you want to configure this into 5 cross 7 display, what should be the
0
value
हो
of DL?
जाएगा. F की जगह 0 हो जाएगा.
Then this DL would be 0.
F 0.
रिजवान को नजर नहीं आ रहा? वो नजर नहीं आ रहा?
F 0 हो जाएगा.
बहुत छोटे digits
आगे आ जाए. आगे आ जाए. अगर किसको नजर नहीं आ रहा आगे आ जाए. Okay. Okay, now देखिए this is DL. Why DL should be 1? Because we want to configure it into 5 class standard display. If we want to configure it into 5 class standard display, what should be the value of DL then?
0 होगा.
0
F 0.
Actually, F will be 0. This F will be 0. अच्छा, if you want to configure it into 1-row mode,
0.
N will be 0. Okay. In the last, if you look at this, the last 2 digits,
Don't care.
these are don't gates, so you can make it a logical 1 or logical 0, doesn't matter. Okay, now we have set these signals. Okay, now this is 0, this is 0, and now this is all the commands. But now this data will not be accepted by LCD. Why it is not accepted?
R is 0 है.
No, it is not accepted by this because you have not given a pulse.
Pulse. Yes sir.
Now you should give a pulse. How you can give a pulse?
enable LCD को कॉल करें.
call
Subroutine.
enable LCD. Now these are the outputs for the microcontroller. This will appear on the outputs of the microcontroller. But when you give the pulse, these commands will be then
Yes sir.
received by the LCD. Done?
Yes.
Yes.
Okay, it's done. Very good. Okay, now call LCD, call enable LCD. Okay, now there is also one.
RS को भी सेट करेंगे सर.
Okay. Okay. Now this is also one specification that I did not mention here. Whenever you display some data, it should always move to the right directly.
Yes sir.
It should also move
तो ID की जगह 0 होना चाहिए.
right shift config. Okay, so actually before this you should also say that whenever some data is displayed, cursor should move to the right with display shift. Cursor should move to the right with display shift. Cursor should move to the right. S is equal to, with display shift S is equal to 1. So S should be 1 with display shift. And move to the right. S
ID 0.
ID.
ID equal to 0 sir.
Where is here?
Second.
Second.
ID is equal to 0, yes. Where are these lines? S is equal to 1 in ID. Third one. So which data should we send now? Clear RS,
Yes sir.
clear RW. Okay, now we don't need to change it because it's already done.
Already done. Yes sir.
It's done here, so you don't need to write here. RS and RW is already 0, 0. No problem. It's done. Clear RS and clear RW. Okay. Now what should be the value of you? 0, 0, 0, 0, 5, 0 and then 1. Move P2 hash in percent 5 zeros 1, 2, 3, 4, 5 and then 1. The third one 1, 1, 2, 3, no. Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, then 1, then ID
0.
and S 1.
101.
ID 0, 1, 0, 1. So actually, what we are going to do? We said we want to display it to the right and automatically right shift. But now we have given the command, but we have not given the pulse.
Pulse.
Then we say call.
नहीं पल्स तो हम दे चुके हैं
सर दे
सर.
चुके हैं ना सर.
ये उधर से मिटाना
Pulse
चाहिए.
again देनी होगी.
हर
Whenever, for देखिए now whenever clear set then clear. Now it's 0. At this point E is 0 now.
Yes sir.
Okay, set is E is 0, so then you say call enable LCD. You got it or not?
ठीक है सर.
ठीक है?
सर
Okay.
सर एक मिनट सर. पहला करेक्टर हम भेजेंगे तो फिर ये मूव P2 करेंगे ना सर. उसके बाद फिर वो कर्सर शिफ्ट होना चाहिए.
हाँ, ये भी हो सकता है. हम इसको इस तरह से कर सकते हैं कि
इसको नीचे ही करेंगे. इस तरह करेंगे सर.
ठीक है?
Yes sir.
Now we have configured it. What should we do? Initially program is initialized. We are initializing we are configuring. We have clear W and clear RS. First we said that whenever any character is displayed,
Yes.
it should also automatically move to the right. It's a one-time command.
Yes sir.
enable LCD, then we configure it into 2 row mode and all the row modes.
Yes, sir.
Call enable LCD.
Yes, sir.
ठीक है?
Yes, sir.
Actually, you can put it in any order. Doesn't matter because we have not sent the data yet.
Yes, sir.
We have not sent the data yet. अच्छा, initially we should clear the display. Initially we should clear the display. So clear RS and clear RW is already done.
और 0001 भेज
Move.
देंगे तो क्लियर डिस्प्ले हो जाएगा इससे.
Second we do it like this. Move P2 H1 direct one.
ठीक है सर.
Y1
एग्जाम में भी
clear R display and return cursor home. The last DB0 is 1.
यस सर.
This is 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 0 1. I have written it in decimal. This P2 is 8-bit data. If you put it in binary, it is actually like this: impersonal 0 0 0 0 0 0 1.
सर असेंबली में हम डेसिमल की जगह डी नहीं लिखते, डी और फिर वो
Depends on the architecture.
हम तो वो भी लिख सकते हैं ना कि डी.
D you can also write it in D. It depends on the architecture. What's the architecture? In my architecture, I assume that when there is no symbol, it's by default it's decimal. So then, what is this? Clear display. But after that, what should we do now?
Call enable.
Call enable.
So you have to call enable LCD after every command.
After enable, yes. Call enable LCD. Now display name. Display name. We want to display L initially.
यस सर.
We should start with L, capital L. Okay, now what should be the value of RS?
1.
1. So what should we write? Set
RS.
RS should be clear RW
और W यस सर.
is already cleared.
क्लियर है. यस.
You don't need to write a second command. Okay, so you can also write it. Set RS and clear RW. You can also do, but this is unnecessary. It's not required because it's already clear. Because the value has not been changed.
यस सर.
The value has not been changed here.
यस सर.
Clear RW, RS. Now you want to write some data. So then you can say move P2 hash.
ASCII भी तो लिख सकते हैं. A
L.
Yes, sir.
I didn't remember the ASCII value. So actually it will get ASCII value of capital.
Yes
L.
sir. Yes sir. ठीक है सर.
Okay.
Yes sir.
And then call
Enable it. sir.
LCD. Then move
A.
P2 hash A and call enable LCD. And so forth, so on. You can write.
इसका registration number भी.
Series registration number, and you can write all the complete code of the LCD.
सर नेक्स्ट लाइन में जाने के लिए क्या होगा?
Huh?
नेक्स्ट लाइन में क्यों जाना है?
No, it will automatically shift to the right.
Yeah,
When it
but
reaches the
yeah.
last character of the row, it will move to the next row. Because it's in 2 row mode. And if you want to move to the next row, you will look into the data sheet of the LCD and see whether there is a command available or not. So you will look into the available commands. Actually, you basically whenever you want to interface any device, first you should look for its data sheet. First you should look for its data sheet, and based on the data sheet you can like program your device. Okay, that's it.
जी सर.
Close code.